This video is sponsored by HelloFresh. Hey guys, Maven here. Now today, it's gonna be a little bit more casual and I'm gonna tell you about some horror stories from being a WWE wrestler. Some of these stories are admittedly funny. I look back and giggle and I don't wanna be over dramatic here, but some of these stories could have had altered my life for the worst. We're gonna start with the lighthearted, and progressively each story is gonna get a little bit darker. However, the one thing they all have in common is that they are 100% true. Now, the first story I consider my suit story, and you'll find out why in a bit. Now, I consider it one part bad luck, one part I'm an idiot. But if you can go back with me to the WrestleMania in 2005 in LA. Now, the WWE had just brought back the Hall of Fame dinner, and it was, once again, a big deal. Now, for the Hall of Fame event, I didn't have any speeches. I obviously didn't have any events, and I obviously wasn't being put into the Hall of Fame. But they did have one requirement, one thing they stressed several times, and that was to have proper attire. For the females, it was to have a nice cocktail dress. For the men, it was to have a suit. Now, this isn't the Maven of 2024, where I open up and have a closet full of custom-made suits. No, this was back when I had one suit to my name, and I think I got that in 1999, and it wasn't gonna be a showstopper. So I said to myself, Maven, you need a good suit, go splurge, treat yourself, get a custom-made suit, get something that people are gonna look at and be like, yo, well done. And that's what I did. I went to a custom tailor near my hometown, found a nice tan suit, had a hat to go with it, really nice tie, pocket square. I was gonna look the part. Here's the problem. I did this as close to last minute as you could. Last minute enough to where the tailoring wasn't gonna be done until I was already in LA. Normally, I would just take the suit with me, obviously. But since the suit was still gonna be tailored, the store assured me, Maven, no problem. It will be at your hotel in time for the event. They guaranteed me, and you know what? I believed them. Obviously, with WrestleMania, once Raw's over, we don't go home, we go straight to the town. For this year, that town was LA. We checked into the TV hotel in Century City, and I immediately ski-daddled my butt down to the concierge and let them know I had an important package arriving any day. They did their job and assured me, Mr. Huffman, as soon as the suit is here, we will not only alert you, hell, we'll bring it up to your room. All was right in the world on Tuesday. By Wednesday, midweek, back at the concierge, still nothing. So I called my tailor. Tailor informed me the suit's en route. You should have it. By Thursday, I was sweating bullets, still nothing, but the true fear didn't come until Friday. And that fear set in about 2 hours before we were due to leave for the event. Now, 2 hours prior to leaving, I'm down at the concierge. Please tell me that the suit's here. And they tell me, Maven, there's nothing here for you. What am I gonna do? I'm sitting in LA. I'm going to the Hall of Fame event. Then the only requirement they gave us in plenty of time was to have the proper attire. And the one thing I don't have is the damn proper attire. So I went to the next best person who I knew was gonna have extra suits available. And that person was Batista. Now I know what you're saying. Maven, there's probably 100-pound difference between you and Dave, and you are 100% right. But there wasn't that many people that had extra suits that I could somehow fit into. Dave was fortunately a friend first and was there to offer a suit and was gonna help me find one that I wouldn't look ridiculous in. And that's what he did. Dave gave me a suit for that night. And although it didn't quite fit me great, the one thing I did have going for me is Dave's suits were second to none, and Dave's suits were tailored perfect. So a suit that looked great on him was just slightly a little too big for me. I felt like an idiot the whole night just being in someone else's suit. But thanks to Batista, he saved the day. I know you're wondering, when did the suit come? The next day, of course. And the moral of that story, don't procrastinate. Don't wait till the last minute. My next WWE horror story would actually happen on live TV, pay-per-view, so I'm swimming with the big fish at this time. Take yourself back with me, if you will, and get your passport ready and go with me to San Juan, Puerto Rico for New Year's Revolution. And I was exactly where I wanted to be, and that is a match with who would later become the gold standard, Shelton Benjamin, for the Intercontinental Championship. Now, this is where all wrestlers want to find themselves. A big pay-per-view in another country, and having a singles match. So where is the horror story? Well, it comes actually during my match. As Shelton and I are out there, I get a lot of heat. And I think it was even more heat than the office was prepared for. Like, they knew I would get booed, but they didn't know I was gonna get booed to this level. So much heat, in fact, that they had to call an audible on the spot, live television. And that is where the real horror began. I'm about to get in the ring. I'm getting the hell booed out of me. And Mike Chioda, the referee, stops me and tells me, Vince says cut a promo. And you actually see me mouth, do it now? And I'm asking, does he want me to cut the promo now? Chioda says, yes, now. I wasn't coming up with the promo completely off the cuff. In fact, Shelton and I had in our match that I was going to cut a promo at some time during the match. However, it wasn't this early. So we were basically just jumping ahead a few chapters. So I jumped down, walked the 25 feet, and I had to immediately shuffle in my mind, okay, what am I supposed to say? I had to get my thoughts together, and it's a stressful situation to do that, and know you're doing that on live TV in front of thousands and millions at home watching the pay-per-view, and at the same time still stay in character. So I walk around, reach my hand out to Lillian Garcia saying, give me the microphone. She hands me the microphone. I grab the chair, slam it on the ground. The whole time, all I'm trying to do is extend enough time to get my thoughts in order. I stand up on the chair and start delivering my promo. And I'm amped. I'm telling the Puerto Rican fans how mad I am. In fact, I'm so amped that I jump down off the chair, charge the fans at the barricade, so hyped that I actually banged the mic into the barricade, shutting the whole thing off, leaving me speaking without a microphone. But, excuse me. Nice, a weekly delivery from HelloFresh. Making meals is tough, and eating healthy even tougher. Well, that's where today's video sponsor, HelloFresh, can help simplify your life.
HelloFresh delivers weekly meal kits with recipe cards and pre-portioned ingredients straight to your door, saving you time at the grocery store and making it easy to cook a wholesome meal. With over 50 meal options, I guarantee you HelloFresh has something to fit your health goals and activate those taste buds. My personal go-tos are meat and veggies and fit and wholesome, because the older I get, I don't want to sacrifice taste, but I know I need to do everything to get in a nutritious meal. So click the link in the description or use my code to get 10 free meals plus free breakfast for life. Yes, I'm not joking. That's one free breakfast item for the life of your subscription as long as you're in the US. Outside the US, local discount rates will apply. And a big thank you to HelloFresh for not only supporting this channel, but my nutritional goals.
Okay, I'm back. Excuse me, where were we? Microphone shut off. I'm left stuck yelling at the audience with a microphone that has no sound and realizing there's nothing coming out. And I don't know how to fix a microphone, and it's not gonna look good if I have to stop what I'm saying and swap out microphones. Fortunately for me, WWE uses the highest of quality, and I'm assuming someone in the truck quickly got it turned back on. So I only had to break stride for a little bit. However, it was 5 of the most stressful seconds of my life. My next horror story would be 100% my fault and would last the better part of the entire day. Now, when you leave for a weekend tour or a loop in WWE, one of the most important elements of this loop is catching your first flight. And wouldn't you know it, on one loop, I missed that first flight. Sleeping through an alarm, I woke up about 30 minutes later than I needed to, and having an airport 1 hour away, I knew I had no time to spare, but I tried all the same. And in most airports, it wouldn't be a big deal. They would just put you on the next available flight. Well, the airport I would fly out of, it was a small regional airport, and they didn't have a ton of next flights. So I found myself at the airport. The next available flight was 4 hours later. And we had a show that night, and I wasn't about to call the office and tell them to rebook me. Oh no. Yours truly had to go in my wallet, pay the $600 to rebook me on a one-way flight to the location of our house show or untelevised event for that night. But the money isn't worth the stress that took place, not at all. Heck, I happily would pay $600 to be in good grace and keep my job. The stress was in the 4 hours that I had to wait till the next plane took off. What if there was something wrong with that plane? And then I had to make sure I caught my connecting flight from that plane to the town I was going to. And on most show days, they fly you out in plenty of time to get to where you're going for that night's show. I was leaving myself absolutely no wiggle room, and for the entire day, I was just hoping that everything went right. If there was a electrical problem on the plane and it was stuck on the tarmac for an extra 20 minutes, I ran the risk of no showing an event. And guess what? You do not, and I repeat, you do not no-show wrestling events. That's the quickest way to get your ass canned, to find yourself without a job. To be unreliable, not gonna happen. So the entire day, I'm thinking to myself, 30 minutes could have made every bone I broke worthless. Could have made every time I had a little bit of pain useless. It could have meant that the house I just bought, I don't know how I'm gonna pay for it. 30 minutes could have been the difference in keeping my job or having them think I was unreliable. Fortunately, from that moment on, everything went to plan, and I actually arrived at the arena without anyone knowing I missed my flight. But I did that $600 poorer and a day chock full of stress. And it would be the last time I would ever come close to missing a flight. Now, my next horror story would actually come once my time in WWE was over. However, it would be directly related to my time as a WWE superstar. So I had been out of WWE about 7 to 8 years, just going about my daily business with a much quieter existence. Out of nowhere, I actually receive a letter from the state of Oregon saying that I was the father of a 5-year-old child. Now, far from a saint, I'm not gonna sit here and tell you these hands have been soaking in ivory liquid my entire life. However, if I was to have a child out there I didn't know about, that would not only come to a great surprise to me, but that would alter every aspect of my life. And to think there's a kid out there and I'm the deadbeat dad, this was a highly stressful situation. Not only a stressful situation for me, but a stressful situation for my girl at home. She saw the letter. She saw where the state of Oregon said I owed thousands in back child support payments. She saw where it said if I didn't contest that I was gonna assume parental responsibilities. And she also knew that to prove I wasn't the father, I had to do it on my own dime. There was a part of me that actually wasn't 100% sure. I had to quickly rewind some of my life encounters, and was I in the place she lived at the time? I mean, hell, I did live in Oregon leading up before Tough Enough, but needless to say, it was a highly stressful situation that made me wonder, was past reckless life decisions finally catching up to me? My first goal was to find an attorney just to find out what my rights were. I mean, if I am a parent has rights. What are mine? He immediately told me, you need to go and you need to prove your innocence or find out, are you indeed the dad? Did you have a child that maybe one night you just don't remember? I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say it's not 100% possible. From that point on, I followed his instructions to the letter and sent off my DNA to find out, am I indeed the proud father of a strapping young boy out in Oregon? And as I sat at home week after week after week, eagerly waiting the DNA results, I finally got them one day and eagerly opened up to find out that I indeed was not the father. I mean, hell, I was wild and I have my skeletons, but I've already cleaned out a lot of those closets, and it was just a stressful situation that didn't need to be there. And I've always wondered why the burden of proof was placed on me, and this was someone I never even met. And although the matter was concluded and cleared up, and I never heard anything else from the woman or the child, and yeah, they did inconvenience my life, even still, I wish both of them nothing but the best. Now, this next horror story was truly one of the darkest and scariest moments of my life, whether I was a WWE wrestler or in general. And the reason being, it's because it started off as innocent as anything ever. So this story begins in Survivor Series 2004, where I find myself in an 8-man tag in the main event, the exact place I want to be. Now, if you look at the 8 people involved in this tag match, I've said it before, I'm probably the one that might be playing a little bit out of my league, but in the main event, I was. And to cover up for my lack of experience, to cover up for my not being on the level of those other guys, they came up with the idea, what if we have Maven get an injury earlier in the day and then try to make a heroic entrance into the match. By doing this, it would accomplish two things. One, it would protect me from having to be in a match I more than likely wasn't completely ready for, while at the same time still giving me my time to shine and have my spot in the pay-per-view. So I was perfectly fine with it. I mean, if I wasn't fine, what was I gonna say? No, of course not. So the spot begins innocently enough with me backstage cutting a promo where Gene Snitsky would attack me and throw me into a crate. All was supposed to happen. In fact, while I got thrown into the crate, I was worried about this scar I was gonna get, as Fit Finley was gonna give me color. But what I didn't realize is when I went into that crate, I actually landed on my elbow, busting it open. But no big deal. I mean, I had this cut to contend with. A small cut on my elbow, man, that's nothing, right? Right? Well, it would turn into a big something, and this wouldn't be overnight. In fact, I didn't even really notice it at first. I think I realized that I was bleeding down my arm and saw some blood on my leg, thinking maybe it was from my head, and I had to be alerted that no, you have a cut on your elbow. So, okay, wrap it up. Have Chris the trainer wrap it up. He did, and I went about my business. After a few days, I noticed it wasn't going away, and actually it was starting to hurt more and more each day. In fact, it was waking me up at night, waking me up, swelling up. I would have to go and get it drained, and when I would get it drained, it was disgusting. But then I realized I didn't have a simple cut on my elbow. In fact, I had an infection. But even still, an infection? Well, hell, we got penicillin, no big deal. I started my first round of antibiotics thinking whatever's in there, that's gonna take care of it. Well, a few days passed and the elbow kept getting bigger and bigger, and each and every day I would have to drain it more and more. Now, here's where the true horror sets in. After the second round of antibiotics did not work to get rid of the infection, I was then informed this is a little bit more serious than we originally thought. In fact, if this next round of antibiotics does not work, you're going to have to be fitted with an intravenous round of antibiotics that you wear 24 hours a day around your waist. Why? Because you run the risk of blood poisoning. And when they said blood poisoning, then they said something about amputation being a possibility. I mean, I had a simple cut on my elbow, and now a few weeks later, they're talking about a worst case scenario being amputation or even death from blood poisoning. I mean, people actually die from blood poisoning. I'll be honest with you, that third round of antibiotics I took as serious as I've ever taken anything in my entire life. It was stressful, hoping that every time I drained the elbow, it wasn't gonna be infection coming out. It was gonna be showing signs of healing. It was tough hearing that the possibility of amputation or even death wasn't completely off the table. But during that third round of antibiotics, I was anxious the whole time. I was making sure that I was doing everything that the doctors suggested. Fortunately, the third round of antibiotics obviously worked, but I did learn a valuable lesson. And that lesson was something that starts off very small can turn into a huge inconvenience if neglected. Even with all these horror stories, they would not be my worst day. That would be the day I got arrested. And to hear that, click the link on screen.